Today, I'm going to show you how to build a tree absolutely for free. Hey, if you're new here, my name is Connie Knox, and I am a lifelong genealogist here to help you go further, faster, and factually with your family history research. Now, you should know I've been doing this for a long time, years. I have been researching family history. And so I've got a few tricks up my sleeve with regard to being able to search your family tree for free with a lot of different methods. So we're going to kind of go through this. I've created a 5-step process, and there is a handout for this episode. You can purchase it over at genealogytv.org, and I'll give you that website here in a second. Or you can get it for free if you follow the link in the description, and I will send you this handout. It is quite robust. It is like, it's really almost an ebook, I guess. It's 17 pages long. So if you want to get that, make sure you find the link in the description box below the video here on the YouTube channel. So in this episode, the whole goal is to try and create a strategy that lets you build a tree absolutely for free. Now, whether you're a beginner or you've been doing this for a while, there's some resources in here that you may not know about. So we're going to kind of go through a lot of them. I'm going to try and keep moving. So make sure that you get the handout if you want to follow along or take notes. There's 5 steps. There's going to be some bonus steps at the end. I'll tell you right now, because there's some really killer good stuff at the end as well. And so let's start out talking about free records. Now, typically free records that you can find online, and we're not even getting into the steps here yet, but the kind of the rule of thumb is that if the platform had to pay for the records or they had to pay to digitize the records, it's often behind a paywall. There's one exception to that, and that's with FamilySearch. But that is the general rule of thumb. That is not always the rule of thumb. So, for example, there's a lot of free records you can find on Ancestry.com. Some of them are, governmental records like census records, but only about, I would say about a third of them are available for free. But you can build quite a tree with those free records. So now the next thing that I want to talk about is the 72-Year Privacy Act. Now, keep in mind that the 72-Year Privacy Act was created, they believe, all my research and my memory of it is that it was created because the average lifespan of a person was 72 years. So the idea is that you cannot get to records that are newer than 72 years. Therefore, things like the 1950 census just became available in April of last year. And so I just wanted to mention that. So if you're brand new to genealogy, there is that a little bit of a privacy issue for many of the governmental records. Okay. So again, if you want to find any of the handouts or any of the information, typically you can find it at genealogytv.org. Okay. Now, step 1 is about creating a free guest account at Ancestry. And there is a difference now between a free guest account and a free trial. So a free guest account is totally free. You do not have to put a credit card down. You never will have to put a credit card down. You will never have to pay for it. But it allows you to build a tree for free. Now, I do want to just kind of give kudos to MyHeritage. They also have a free option where you can download the actual software to your computer and build a tree on your computer for free. But we'll get into MyHeritage a little bit later. So a free trial now is where you have to put down your credit card, but you have access to all the records during the free trial. That typically is about 14 days. Now, I know it is at Ancestry. On some of the other platforms, it may be a little different, but know that you would have access to all those records during the free trial. Now, there's some strategies that you might want to employ with regard to a free trial, in that you could access those records for 14 days and then cancel the subscription and not pay for it. But I have a strategy with that in mind. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I also have a link to this in the handout where you can register for a free guest account on Ancestry. And this is the free guest account. This is not the free trial. So all you have to do is click on this, create a free guest account, and then you can jump in. This is going to be your paid option. So if you want to create a free guest account, you can. Now, you can always, if you decide later on you want to pay for a subscription, you can always convert that to a subscription later. And I promise you, Ancestry will be reminding you through your journey. You're just going to have to learn not to get frustrated by that, because the reality is, they're in business to make money, but they are offering this as a free option. So your tree might look something like this. You have a lot of options here, and you can do some research, you can do some searching here. And if you want to do some free searching on Ancestry, you can do so here. Look at all the well, okay, so what you would do here is you would fill this out and scroll and hit search and find record. But look at all the free records that you can research. And if you'll notice, for those who are in the United States, there are quite a few United States federal census, 1940, 1950. But I have some more strategies for you as to how you can research others. You can also research the U.S. federal slave schedules in 1860 and 1850. And there's also the 1880 U.S. federal census that is available for free on Ancestry. But we can find a lot of this stuff also and more on FamilySearch. And so we're going to talk about how to do that here in just a moment. That is really talk to your family, because it's your family that's probably going to have more answers than anybody. And so we're not going to get into a great deal of this now, but know that I have created episodes early on in the YouTube journey, is that I've got 2 episodes about how to interview your family. But I recommend that nowadays you can do Google Meet for free, and I think there's free versions of Zoom. You might be able to jump on and interview family if they're out of town. Otherwise, just sit down. But I highly encourage you to record the interviews. And I promise you that you will thank me later that you actually record. I don't care if you record it with your cell phone, an old tape recorder where you have to hit play and record at the same time. Do something to record it, because you will not remember everything, and take notes if you don't. And in addition to recording it, take notes, because it may be noisy, the TV may be on in the background, you may have misunderstood something that somebody said. With a recording, you can go back and listen to it again and again and see if you got your notes right. So if the recording didn't come through for some reason, or the audio was messed up, whatever, you need to make sure that you are recording each time you sit down with somebody. And you know what happens? I find this a lot at family reunions when we're sitting around the dinner table. I set up cameras in the corner. I put them on a tripod, I hit record and sit down and eat, because it's at the dinner table that these stories always seem to come up. And it's like, where's my notebook? I got to start writing notes, because you can't keep up with it. So anyway, interview the family. See if you can get some of the records from them, if they've got copies of birth, marriage, and death certificates, any kind of family heirlooms that might help tell the family history story. So let's make sure that you're talking to your family. Okay, step 3 is to do the research over at FamilySearch. And the reason why I say that is because you can, hang on, I'm trying to do 2 things at once. Do your research at FamilySearch, because it's free, first of all, and you can get a lot there. Now, you're building your tree on Ancestry, but you can also do research on FamilySearch, and they have all of the census records available for you, as well as records from around the world. So you just go to search and you go to records, and you can start searching for your family. Now, typically what I like to do is open this up and search with a little bit more details. But one of the other things you can do is, if you're new to FamilySearch, you're going to want to get set up with an account. When you first come to FamilySearch, they're going to run you through a wizard. You're going to sign up for a free account. I promise you, they don't spam you. It's one of the most generous websites I have ever seen. And so you just need to get set up with that, and then they'll kind of run you through a wizard. Who are your parents, who are your grandparents? If you know them, put them in, and hopefully you'll connect to the World Collaborative Tree. So if you go to Family Tree and drop down to Tree, you'll see a tree like this. And you can change the views up here. You can change some of the filters and look at birthplaces and sources and all this. This is the World Collaborative Tree. This is my view because I've identified myself on the tree. So this is my view in a giant tree. This is not my tree. This is the giant collaborative tree. So just keep that in mind as you're working on Family Search if you're new to this whole family history thing. So then you can also search the records, or you can drill in from any specific person on the tree. You can click in and see that person's profile and do some research. My favorite way to do research, though, is to go through the research wiki and keep in mind that if you have your tree on Ancestry, let's say you've got your tree on Ancestry and you're building out this tree. This is a dummy tree. I just use it for demos. But if you've got a tree over here, then you're focused on one person, right? Focus on that person and try and do research for that person. So step 4 is really where to find the records, and that's right here. That is right here at the Research Wiki on Family Search. And if you can't see that, I'll zoom in a little bit. That's Search, Research Wiki. And then just drill into the map like I showed you. And where you find the records is over here in the record type. So let's say for a moment that you're working backwards, as you always should be. You should be working from yourself, your parents, your grandparents. You're working backwards, but you're also working backwards in the timeline for your ancestors. So here we might want to go look for vital records or probate records. So we're working from death to birth. So if we go to probate records, we might be able to find where the probate records are for that particular ancestor in that particular area. And quite frankly, what I should have done first was drilled into the county level, because if I know the county level, wait for it, we're going to go back to the Research Wiki. This kind of gets us back to where we were. And now I'm going to scroll down. Now you can drill into any of these counties, and let's click into Pittsburgh County. And now we can find more information about what is available in, especially right here. This is such a great little snippet, if you will, a little widget that tells us when the records are available. So if you're looking for a birth record, for example, and they were born in 1901, there is no such thing as birth records in 1901 because they didn't start until 1908. So this is one of the reasons why you want to come here, and you can drill into the different towns if you want. But keep in mind also to stay at the state level, because you can drill into the local level like that and look to see what's available. But also remember to stay at the state level, because otherwise you'd be missing some of those state records. Like probate records, for example, are often found at the state archives for older probate packages. Sometimes they're at the county level. It just depends on the state and the location. They've got land records back to 1890. So, I mean, this is just one county. You can also go to the county website. This is cool because the wiki has a lot for you. So one of the things that I want to talk about in step 5 is to talk about social media, because social media, you can find Pinterest, Facebook. I mean, there's a bunch of them, Instagram. There's a bunch of people that have created Facebook groups or social media groups with the surname attached or the location. For example, Laramie, Wyoming's Genealogical Society, maybe, that has a Facebook group. So you could go search for that on, your social media platform. So for example, here, let me get rid of this. I had created my surname, my maiden name is Henley. So I had created a Henley genealogy in the United States, because there was another one, group. And so here I can create little stories. And these is so great because you can create these little stories and publish them and talk about them in various, for various branches of the tree. These little mini stories, if you do this, make sure that you save them and put them in your family history, because you don't want to rely on Facebook to save your stuff, right? So it could be that you go and create these little stories in Word or some other document first, and then put them up on Facebook so that you've already preserved them on your computer and you don't forget to save them, because you can also do all that spell checking and everything and fact checking prior to that. There's all kinds of stuff. So you can do all kinds of really cool things with Facebook groups, Pinterest, bulletin boards, all kinds of things. So make sure that you're also looking there, but you can also create your own, which I find incredibly helpful. Okay, so I've got some extra tips for you. I've got some bonus tips, if you will. So, bonus tip number one is to now exercise those free trials. So, you've gone to Ancestry. Let's back up just a minute. You've gone to Ancestry, you've built a tree for free on a guest account. You've gone to FamilySearch and you've done some research there as well as on Ancestry. And what we didn't even talk about with the research part was that you can also go to the state archives, the county libraries, all kinds of free resources that you can do to help find more of your family at those locations, and then add that information. You can even add web links on your Ancestry's account. So if you're in a profile of one of your ancestors, you can create web links to records that are off-site, that are not on Ancestry. So for example, you find a census record on FamilySearch, you can create a web link on Ancestry to link to that. It's in the source column in any of the ancestor profiles. So now you've kind of been creating this tree, and hopefully along the way, you've been creating a list of things that you could not access. So maybe there are records that Ancestry has that are behind the paywall. So now you turn on the free trial and you go grab those records. Now, here's my advice. When you go and access those records under a free trial, make sure that you're downloading them to your computer, especially if you're planning on canceling that free trial. Because if you download them to your computer, then you have them in your ancestors' files. And that's a whole other discussion on how to file, but surname, and then under the surname folder, you put your ancestors folders. In those folders, you put those records that you have. Now, if you're then going to cancel the subscription, then you have those records. But if you don't cancel the subscription, you'll lose those records or lose access to those records when you cancel. Now, even if you cancel your subscription over at Ancestry, you still have your tree there. It's under a free guest account. Even if you've been paying for a Ancestry account for some time, don't delete your tree, please. But under that free trial or under a paid account, if you decide not to pay for it, that tree is still there. And all the pointers to those records that are behind the paywall are still there. That way, if you ever turn your account on again, you have access to those records again. But if you're just going to do that whole free trial thing for a couple of weeks and download those records so that you have them and you can put them in your files at home, and maybe add that information to your research notes. If you've watched me at all for any time, you know that I'm a big fanatic about research notes, because that is how you break down your brick walls. All right, bonus tip number two is take it if you want to. This is totally optional. All these bonus tips, everything's optional, right? Bonus tip number two is to download a Gedcom file. Now, if you're not familiar with what a Gedcom file is, it is purely the data. It is not the records. It is not the images in most cases. Some of the newer versions, they do have this option. But for the most part, you're downloading all of that data, the birth, marriage, and death places and dates and names of and people that are connected to the tree. So you can download that. It's a quick export. It's very easy to do. I've got episodes on how to do that here on the YouTube channel. And then what you can do is upload it to other places. For example, MyHeritage. You could upload it to MyHeritage and see if you find any other hints or any other member trees that you have there. Now you can build a tree for free on MyHeritage as well and get started over there. But again, they're in business to make money. So it might be that they, are going to eventually be asking you to subscribe, but you don't have to. But it might be that you're able to deliver some other hints over there as to other records. Especially the cool part about MyHeritage is that they have a lot of records outside of the United States, as well as the typical ones that are inside the United States. So if you're searching in France, for example, they have purchased one of the French genealogy companies, Filet. And so you can then research those records as well. And they have records in like 42 different languages, or some ungodly amount of languages. They have a lot of languages that nobody else has. So, and they have a lot of fun toys over there as well. That is my advice to you on downloading a Gedcom file and then uploading it to another service. My last bonus tip is to research on the wiki and at MyHeritage. We've kind of talked about that already. And one more tip is WikiTree. WikiTree is another free resource. You can, and it's a collaborative tree similar to FamilySearch, where it's one big world tree that you're contributing to. But the cool part about WikiTree is when you add something in WikiTree, you have to source it. And so there's a lot of great sources there. And most of those are hyperlinks because they don't have any records at WikiTree, but they have this big tree. And so WikiTree is a lot of fun. It's a little convoluted to learn your way around. But once you figure out a couple of the key places that you need to go look, you can also upload a Gedcom at WikiTree. Now, that too is a little cumbersome because you have to match. They don't want duplicate people up there. So if you have somebody in your Gedcom file, say a great grandfather, and that same person is already on WikiTree, I think this probably goes for just about any of, I know it's the same for FamilySearch. They have to match those up, each individual person one at a time. So if you have thousands of people in your tree, then that might be a bit of an issue. That's kind of it in a nutshell. I hope that was helpful. Catch you in the next episode.